In the heart of Victorian England, nestled between misty hills and tangled forests, stood Ravenswood Manor. For decades, the estate had been a symbol of opulence and grandeur, home to the powerful Ravenswood family. But its beauty was a mask, hiding a darkness that had lingered for centuries. It was the winter of 1872 when Jonathan Hargrave, a young historian, arrived in the nearby village. Jonathan had dedicated his life to uncovering forgotten histories, and Ravenswood Manor had been a mystery that had haunted him for years. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the estate. They said the Ravenswoods were cursed, that the manor itself hungered for blood, and that those who entered after sundown rarely emerged the same, if they emerged at all. Jonathan, fueled by curiosity and ambition, dismissed the warnings as superstition. To him, the manor was just an old house with a creepy reputation. He intended to spend a single night there, collecting historical records, then return to London. Before long, his professional ambitions would fade away, consumed by something far more sinister. He made arrangements with the local innkeeper to store his luggage and supplies until the following day, then set off up the long drive toward the house. The wind howled through the skeletal trees, and snow crunched beneath his boots. As he neared the house, the wind seemed to grow louder, swirling around him like whispers from another world. The manor loomed before him, a dark silhouette against the gray sky, its windows like vacant eyes watching his every move. With a lantern in hand, Jonathan crossed the iron gates. Each step toward the house seemed to take him deeper into a nightmare. As he climbed the steps and knocked on the heavy oak door, the sound echoed unnaturally in the stillness, as if the manor itself were listening intently. He hesitated for a moment, his knuckles white against the dark wood before him. As the door creaked open, Jonathan stepped inside, leaving the last vestiges of daylight behind. Jonathan stepped into the entrance hall, a shiver running down his spine. The air inside felt colder than the winter night, damp and heavy as if burdened by unseen weight. Dust motes danced in the faint glow of his lantern, revealing faded grandeur. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay, mingling with the musty odor of aged wood and the faintest hint of something metallic, like old blood. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he noticed a grand staircase spiraling into darkness above him, its banisters intricately carved, yet now marred with grime and cobwebs. Turning, he saw a heavy wooden door set into the far wall, its surface etched with arcane symbols that seemed to writhe in the flickering lantern light. He cautiously approached, drawn by an unseen force. Then from the depths of the manor, a sound pierced the silence, a low, guttural growl. It seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. Jonathan froze, his heart pounding. Whatever made that sound was large, powerful, and undeniably hostile. Suddenly, a raven cawed loudly, echoing through the silent hall. Jonathan jumped, whirling around to see a large raven perched atop the newel post of the staircase, its eyes, two gleaming jet beads, fixed on him. It cocked its head as if studying him, then spread its wings in a silent whoosh. Startled by its sudden movement, Jonathan stumbled backward, knocking over a nearby chair. As the raven took flight, it let out another harsh croak and disappeared into the shadows. Jonathan, shaken but determined to press on, brushed himself off. As he ventured deeper into the manor's shadowy embrace, the temperature seemed to drop, sending a fresh shiver down his spine. Then he heard it again, the guttural growl, closer this time. Panic tightened its grip on his chest, making it hard to breathe. His rational mind screamed at him to flee, to get as far away from this cursed house as possible. Yet something held him there, rooted to the spot like a rabbit caught in the glare of a predator's gaze. He forced himself to turn and slowly began to walk back toward the sound. The growl seemed to echo through the very bones of the house, reverberating around him like a physical assault. In the distance, Jonathan saw a faint glow emanating from beneath a heavy tapestry hanging in the far corner of the room. Curiosity and morbid fascination compelled him forward. As he parted the heavy fabric, he gasped. Before him was a doorway, its lintel adorned with the same cryptic symbols he'd seen earlier. An unnatural green glow spilled out from the opening, beckoning him closer. But beyond that allure, Jonathan sensed danger. He hesitated, torn between his desire to uncover the manor's secrets and the primal urge to escape the oppressive atmosphere that threatened to crush him. He could feel the growl now, a deep rumble vibrating in his chest. It was a sound that spoke of ancient power, of malevolent intent. And then the voice whispered again, closer now, its tone dripping with malice. "Leave while you still can. Turn back and live. Stay and become what we are." Jonathan felt his feet move despite his conscious effort to remain still. The growling grew louder, pressing against his ears like a physical pain. The voice reverberated in his bones, urging him to keep going. He wanted to scream, to break free from whatever invisible force was controlling him, but no sound escaped his lips. He was a puppet with strings tied not to his limbs, but to his very soul. The green glow from the doorway intensified, pulling him closer like a moth to a flame. Jonathan struggled against the unseen hands guiding him, but it was a losing battle. His resolve crumbled like dry leaves before the autumn winds. As he crossed the threshold, he felt a searing pain in his chest, as if his very essence were being torn from his mortal coil. The last thing he remembered was the taste of ash in his mouth and the chilling laughter echoing through the green-tinged darkness. When the first rays of sunlight touched Ravenswood Manor the following morning, the villagers cautiously approached. They came for answers, for any news of the missing historian. What they found would plunge them into a terror as deep as the curse that had blighted Ravenswood for generations. The front door hung open, swinging gently in the breeze. Inside, chaos reigned. Papers and books lay strewn across the floor, their pages fluttering like wounded birds. Furniture was overturned, their once proud surfaces marred with scratches and dents. But it was what they found upstairs that sent a collective gasp through the villagers. At the top of the grand staircase lay Jonathan Hargrave, his belly frozen in an eternal scream. His skin was as white as snow, his eyes wide and staring, his mouth contorted in a silent snarl. But it was what lay around him that truly chilled their hearts. Scattered about the room were hundreds of feathers, each one black as midnight. They formed a macabre carpet around the dead man, a grim testament to the horrors that had unfolded within those cursed walls. And then there was the journal, its leather cover torn and stained, lying open beside Jonathan's hand. The last entry, scrawled in a shaky hand, spoke of whispers in the walls, shadows moving without source, and a constant feeling of being watched. It ended abruptly, as if Jonathan had been cut off in mid-sentence. Days turned into weeks, and the village remained in a state of shock and fear. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Jonathan had uncovered a truth he wasn't meant to find, a secret so terrible it had driven him mad. Others claimed he'd been taken by the very creatures that had tormented the Ravenswood family for generations, condemned to roam the halls of Ravenswood for eternity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the village, a group of brave souls returned to Ravenswood. They came not to uncover secrets or confront the darkness that lurked within, but to lay their friend and fellow villager to rest. They carried with them a coffin, heavy and black, draped in a simple white cloth. The procession moved slowly, each step echoing the dread that filled their hearts. As they neared the house, the wind seemed to rise in angry protest, whipping their faces with icy fingers. At the top of the stairs, Jonathan lay in his eternal slumber. Around them the ravens gathered, their cause a chorus of mourning and menace. They watched intently as the villagers prepared for the burial. Then, as if on cue, they took flight, swirling and diving around the mourners like predators testing their prey. The funeral was somber, the air thick with grief and apprehension. The villagers buried Jonathan in the old churchyard, his grave marked by a simple headstone. As the final shovel of earth fell into place, a raven landed on the stone, letting out a mournful caw. It stayed there, perched on the grave, its eyes gleaming with an ancient sorrow. From that day, the stories surrounding Ravenswood Manor grew even darker. Travelers who passed the house at night swore they heard the sound of a lone raven, its cries echoing with an otherworldly chill. And sometimes, on nights when the moon hung heavy in the sky, they saw a ghostly figure standing at the top of the stairs, forever trapped between the living world and the shadowy realm from which the Curse of Ravenswood Manor had no escape.